Dave, today our entire week is going to be dedicated to momentum. And the reason why we wanted to talk about momentum, it is because it's a matter of taking action. It's just not about getting just stuck. So if you think this is going to be something that is going to help you, please watch, because this is going to be very powerful for you.
Yeah, I mean, before we start getting into all the content, what I want you to do is think about something in your life that you really want to improve. And when we start talking about the importance of getting momentum and getting things moving, then you'll start to think about that one thing you want to improve and how you start the ball moving, how to start it going, and how you can take it to where you need to be. Because especially for many people who've been in lockdown, or even if you've lost your job, unfortunately, it's so easy to go into a resting state and not move things forward. But the key to it is, if you keep momentum going, you don't even notice the fact that everything else is slowed around you. We'll explain more as we go, but bear that in mind. If you want to change something by the end of the show, you should have the tools, at least of a mindset, to be able to do something about it.
I want to right now mention that this entire week, this entire series of the Toilet Paper Diaries and Fast Forward are going to be dedicated in memory of our friend Bernie Dorman. Bernie was an incredible individual. He recently lost his battle against COVID-19, and it happened in a very weird way. He was supposed to be our guest on last Thursday, and on Wednesday we got a message from Richard, his partner there from his office, and then he says, well, he's not really feeling that well, so I think we're going to have to postpone. As soon as we finished the episode, I got a text that he had passed and he has lost his battle against COVID. So I think it's one of the reasons why we wanted to do momentum this week was because on his last post, which I will definitely encourage you to read, you can go to his blog, berniedorman.com. He talks about COVID from the point of view of somebody which has it. And I have the feeling after reading that blog post that he had a premonition that he was going to die. And the explanation that he talks about and how he blames several miscommunications of people, and he just basically talks to you exactly as it is, it really encouraged me. I mean, for me, it was a very powerful lesson. Until now, I am actually quite shocked that he's not with us anymore, because he was an amazing person.
He's an incredible guy, and he's one of those guys who, when you meet him, not only is he at the top of his game as a speaker and also somebody who promotes and markets other speakers, but he also had a really generous attitude. I mean, I saw him on stage, and I was privileged enough to see him deliver a keynote to a room full of people, and there were tears by the end of it. And I met him and had a chat with him afterwards, and he was sharing with me all the different ways that he's helped speakers to get to the highest possible level. There's me winning an award with him, which was great when I was in Texas, in the US. And it was just really nice to connect with really heavy hitters who had a generous attitude and were willing to talk to people who are on their way up and share contacts, tips, techniques, and different tools for fast tracking your way to go there. I know he had an organization that actually had connection events, and you went to several of them, where he was helping people to get connected just to grow their businesses by supporting each other. And that was the kind of guy that I think Bernie was. From the time that I spent with him, and the times I read about him, saw his videos, nobody had a bad word to say about him, apart from the fact what a generous nature and what a smart, clever, and talented guy he truly was.
For me, what it was very beautiful to see was how many people actually really loved him. I mean, he was an amazing character. But more importantly, if you knew a little bit about his story, I mean, he recently I saw him in the beginning of the year, and he gave me his book that is called Super Change. His latest book, he signed it up for me. It's about super change. His book is about super change. But what is really amazing is if you know a little bit about him, his dad in the 1940s was very involved in the human potential industry. So while he was little, he had the chance to sit in the lap of Napoleon Hill and play with Jack Kennedy and meeting personally Martin Luther King and Zig Ziglar and Earl Nightingale, and also being there in the office with Walt Disney. I mean, how many people could you say that has actually had that kind of past? He had a really interesting life. I have a really nice video that I'm sure that you're going to enjoy. He has it's actually the whole video is there in YouTube, but this is the trailer of a documentary they did for him about 5 or 6 years ago.
It's extremely painful. I mean, the separation from freedom and your life. I mean, what do you think? Of course it's painful.
When someone comes to me and they say, do you know that he was in jail? I'll tell them I know a lot of people who's been in jail.
Anyone that thinks that can't happen to them, you're foolish. You're very foolish.
Google's good for us.
They'll go Google something and they'll find something.
There's Google everywhere. I'm sure I've got stuff, you've got stuff.
He never tried to hide his past.
We're in our third decade. You think they would have found us out? Courtroom is about an act. They indicted me for what I should have known. I was strip searched and cavity searched. Within a week and a half, I got challenged. You got a problem with him, you got a problem with me. Let's go. If you can survive in prison, nothing else matters.
I have to change the world. It's this thing that he tells me all the time. I have to change the world.
The man behind the curtain has got a great sense of humor.
See if you can do that. You need to find your inner child.
He's probably the biggest giver that they've ever met.
I want people to see the realness of this man.
CEO Space changes a lot of people's lives.
He has probably helped more people than almost anybody I know.
This forum, the CEO Space Forum, is so much bigger than the man.
Are they going to be listening to these tapes at universities or something when I'm gone? Is this important?
Yes.
It is important. I'm proud of my life. I'm proud of what I've done. I don't think I've ever acted in a way that would shame my father. He died in my arms. I was holding him. He died on a hospital bed in his own home in Marin County with that noise. Whoosh, whoosh. That's how my dad passed from the world. That was a night. I remember that night.
Incredible Bernie Dorman.
All our love and sympathies go to his wife, September, and his kids. And it was an absolute blessing to have met him. And it was such a sad thing that we didn't manage to have him in the show, but we still have a very nice endorsement that we actually got from him. And now that I play it, it really brings tears to my eyes because it was really, really nice. I mean, he really liked what we did, and he was very happy that he was going to be here in the show. And I think this is something that we're going to remember very much from him. Have a look.
I'm Bernie Dorman, and I'm chairman of CEO Space International. We're the #1 business conference 5 years in a row from Inc., Forbes, all over the world. We're in 147 countries, and I'm very careful with our #1 standing who we endorse. And I endorse ERNESTO and Speak in America. And we help the most famous speakers in the world that you all know, and they're all on our website. The #1s, the ones you all read and work on, and we've championed them up to their superstar status. And I'm telling you, in the speaker area, you have to have a video that makes you a professional, that's not just a talking head. And Speak in America, for a price that's just ridiculous, gives you not only the experience of being a better speaker, and I'm here with Coach Carter of the movie Coach Carter. Some of the greatest speakers in the world are here doing the upgrading of their product on video. It is the lowest cost and the highest quality in the world that we've ever seen. It makes you global. It makes you international. It makes your buyers pick you up. It takes speakers from 100,000 a year to 1 million a year, 2 million, 5 million, takes you up. And I so endorse Speak in America. And if you're trying to get your speaking to the next level, and I tell all our CEO Space members all over the world, get to Speak in America and do it right now, because yesterday is already too late for you to go from good to great. I'm Bernie Dorman, and I so approve this message.
Beautiful. Bernie's always giving, a really generous guy, really talented guy, and missing him already.
Yeah. Thank you, Bernie. This whole series is dedicated to your memory. It's been a pleasure and an honor knowing you. So, it's so sad for me to see it.
I can see that, and I can feel the pain that you're feeling as well. As you watch this show, by the way, guys, we want to be able to take you on a journey as much as possible. We're honest. We share with you as much as we possibly can about our own experiences, and that hits us home more than anything, because when people say it's a hoax or it's fake or anything like that, I know lots of people who've passed as a result of this. I know people who've recovered from it as well, and I'm sure that you do too. Just stay safe. Make sure that you social distance, wear your masks, and be generous with other people's health as well. Okay, so today's show is all about momentum. Now, if you haven't understood what momentum is about, that's what we're going to be sharing with you now. Have you got a question about it? If so, then put it into the chat, into the comments. We'd love to know who you are, where you are, and how we can help you. Now, the thing about momentum is we want to explain exactly what it is to you in very simple terms, and then you'll understand how the business model of momentum can work for you in your business, wherever it is. And if you have no business, then it'll help you to start moving to be able to get you to the level where you need to truly be. So to do that, Ernesto, I think we've got a few videos to share, including one particularly that we'll share with people about what momentum truly means.
Yeah, I think I love the idea, not to build too much into it, but I really think that you got it very nicely when you were talking about Black Lives Matter. This was a movement that was originated, and actually I think today is the anniversary, no? It's from the creation.
It is. It's a birthday.
So it was a movement that it didn't start today. It started already how many years ago?
2013, 13th of July, 2013. So that's what, 7 years ago.
Then, I mean, there were a lot of things. I mean, from Trayvon Martin to whatever it is. I mean, there were many things that happened since then. And then suddenly, wow, there was nothing. We didn't hear about it for a while. And then suddenly started taking momentum again. I think that's just a nice explanation. Possibly you can just build a little bit on that before we go into the theoretical part, so that actually this starts making more sense.
It was a combination of different things. Of course, Trayvon Martin being killed, unarmed teenager, in 2012, and Black Lives Matter coming out as a direct result of people feeling that police were responsible and didn't do enough. Then it moved on to get the Colin Kaepernick, who took a knee during the national anthem. And to say it went away wasn't quite true. It just didn't move much. It was very much aware, but it didn't have a drive to take it to a new level. Because trust me, as a black person, you're very aware about Black Lives Matter, even if nobody else is talking about it. But what happened was a pressure cooker situation where you had him, is a strange phrase to say, a perfect storm. But if you think about it, you had COVID-19 and the lockdown and a pandemic going across the world. You had a knock-on effect of recession, and part of recession was it affected black people and Latino people and brown people worse because they had worse financial situations and they didn't have the ability to fall back on money or even hospital care in the same way. So they were dying in higher numbers. Then the feeling of being abused by the system, and add to that the George Floyd death. This whole thing came together, and it was captured on video. You got to remember, there's a number of different things, a real mass of things coming together. The video went viral. The outrage and the rage was universal. And then what happened was millennials driving it, I think more than anything, took to the streets to protest. That had the knock-on effects of around the world, people protesting. And then as the government did their thing, resisting change, sending in the police, it made the whole thing mushroom. Now, you've got to understand that in order to get to the stage where we're at now, and the stage now is businesses are realizing that they have to make a change because of a social change, and they're making decisions on that. And then you've got the statues, Confederate statues coming down. You've got NASCAR removing the Confederate flag because they said it's offensive to black people and people would want to move on, and social media banning violent tweets and so on. You wouldn't have any of that if it didn't have the different steps that led to it. If you'd taken anything, like for instance, somebody pulling down a statue, it would be like you've got a vandal pulling down a statue. Stop doing it. It had to have a perfect storm of things moving together, and that's called momentum. So there's lots of different things that have happened, and lots of things that never come to the public forum and to people's knowledge because it didn't have the level of momentum that Black Lives Matter had. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, so that is just basically so that you can see the progress of the momentum. Now, for many of you, you are right now in a standstill situation. You are right now in, well, I've been waiting to see when we're going to come out and when things are going to be going back to normal. So in reality, things are not going to be going back to normal. I just saw today there are 61 major companies here in the United States that have declared bankruptcy. Some of them have been with us for a number of years. Anything from Victoria's Secret to Crew, to J. Crew, to Hertz, to J.C. Penney's, to there's about 60 of them, huge companies that have gone bankrupt because of the standstill that we're getting into. If you're watching this show, most likely you are either a speaker or you're an entrepreneur, and you are trying to figure out in which direction you're going to go, and that's why you don't have momentum at this point. So what we're going to be sharing with you is we're going to be sharing with you throughout this week how you can start gaining momentum. But before we start sharing with you how you can start gaining momentum, we need to understand what momentum is all about. So let me share with you this video that is going to explain what momentum is all about. Have a look.
If you like sports, whether playing in a team or watching them on TV, you might hear the coach say, "Don't lose momentum," or "Keep up the momentum until the end of the game." Deducing from this, it's safe to say that an object in motion has momentum. But how much momentum an object has depends on two factors. The more massive an object is, the more difficult it is to stop it from moving. So the first factor is mass. And it's easier to stop a tennis ball than to stop a bullet, because a bullet moves so much faster. This means our second factor is velocity. So now we have the following equation. Momentum equals mass times velocity. We often give momentum the symbol lowercase p, mass m, and velocity v. This equation shows us that if an object is not moving, it has zero momentum. That's because its velocity will be zero. And we know that anything multiplied by zero is zero.
If we think about momentum, it's movement. And Isaac Newton basically was explaining he had three laws that have been proven over and over again. So I think it's important that we understand each and every one of these laws. And then we're going to show you our interpretation of them and how you can also put them in your business to work for your business. So let's start with law number one, the first law of Newton. Have a look.
Today, we will learn about Newton's first law of motion, or law of inertia. There was this fellow in England named Sir Isaac Newton, born in Woolsthorpe, England, on January 4, 1643. This extremely talented guy doesn't need any introduction. While working, he came up with the three basic ideas that are applied to the physics of most motion, excluding modern physics. The ideas have been verified and tested so many times over the last years that people now call them Newton's laws of motion. Let's learn about Newton's first law of motion. This is also called the law of inertia. Newton's first law of motion, or law of inertia. This states that there is a natural tendency of all objects to keep on doing whatever they are doing. All the objects resist changes in their state of motion. In the non-existence of an unbalanced force, an object in motion will continue this state of motion. See this ball sitting in your table? It is not moving, meaning it's in the same position. When you push it with a finger, it starts rolling. Ah, see, it's not stopping. Oh, this book came in its way. It will stop now. This clearly means that moving objects do not change their route or direction unless a force causes them to move from their path. Let's take one more example. Imagine you are in space and you kicked a ball. It will keep moving forever and forever because there is no force or blockage to stop this.
Say one thing about Newton, he had wonderful hair.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the situation. Right now, we have just going to stand still. If we keep on doing what we're doing, we're not going to be able to do absolutely anything. We have to get some pressure. We have to get some movement. Now, right now, the reason why most people are in standstill is because they are asking themselves the wrong question. And what is the question that everybody is asking themselves? Well, if you ask yourself that question, you won't be able to progress. And that question is, what do I do? So how am I gonna get something done? So if you start asking yourself how and not who, you're gonna really get yourself stuck. Why? Because you do not know where we're going. You do not know what's going to be happening. You do not know how things are going to be working. So you do not know how to do it. So the best way, and this is exactly how we got started, and this is we have repeated this many times, is by simply asking who's already showing the way so that we can start moving into that direction. And who was it that we started seeing, well, this is where we can actually see the opportunity.
Yeah, we looked at the late night talk show hosts and we said, look what they're doing. And we realized that they were going to end up in the same situation as everybody else. There's going to be a reset button across all late night talk show hosts where they've got the pulse of the nation. We're sharing with everybody all the funny stuff to allow people to feel better. But they were going to have to do it from home. And we'd get to find out what their homes are like, but we'd also get to find out how they were going to cope without a studio audience, without live guests next to them, which is that positioning when you see them together where you realize how big they are and how famous they are. They're going to have to do a show from home. So we realized that what we would have is pretty much the same thing. So why don't we do a show from home? So we basically just started the ball rolling with zero idea, apart from the fact that our backgrounds left us in a position where we're used to talking, we're used to creating content, and we have a good enough relationship to be able to depend on each other and have fun together. So we started doing that. We agreed we're going to make it go for about, we said we'll keep it going until the end of a lockdown. And we've been going ever since, even taking a month off, we're still in lockdown. So what happened was we've started to grow and we started to reach people. And many of the late night talk show hosts have actually stopped doing it because the show that they had to substitute for what they were doing before clearly wasn't satisfying enough because that's not what they signed up for. So they've gone to a summer break, but I'm completely sure most of them won't come back to the same format unless they've added a ton of different things to make it more interesting.
If you, instead of asking, how am I going to get something? Because that's going to really get you still in standstill. Ask, who can I model? Who can I mirror? Who can I learn from? And start moving as fast as possibly can. I mean, I absolutely love that picture. Now, let me just share with you one other secret, which I think is very, very important. And if you want to really start moving forward, now it's the time to cut a check to people. And you're going to be saying, well, how does that work? I mean, why should I be doing that? I mean, I have to keep my money. Well, no, you also want to keep your money, but you also want to start moving. So it's okay right now, people, because of course the circumstances are completely different. Right now, you can get people and talk to them so that they can come and tell you how they are getting the results that they have. It's fine. I mean, half an hour of consulting, 2 hours of consulting, possibly a telephone call, whatever it is. There's more people which are actually opening. I mean, there's no books, there's no courses on how to get started during the coronavirus. So right now it's the right time to get somebody to cut a check so that actually they can help you. But the most important thing is find who. Right now, if you're a speaker, you can see, for example, that we are doing broadcasting. And every time that we broadcast, we have 300, 400, all the way to 1,500 people watching us. And you want to learn this, we are the right people. If possibly your business is something else, find somebody which is already achieving the results, get in touch with them, and cut them a check and make sure that you actually get yourself started. That's the first rule of momentum. Right, Dave?
When you find somebody who's doing well, you've got to model them. And one of the most important currency, bar none, is not money. It's time. You'll never get time back again. And here's why it's so important to invest in a mentor or a coach or a system or skills right now is most people around you aren't moving. Most people are still watching Netflix, looking at series to watch that they've never really bothered because they've just got nothing else to do, or they've lost their job, or they're in fear, or they're waiting to get rescued. That's the thing about most people. If you actually get proactive, not only do you raise your game, but you raise your game while everybody else isn't moving, which means you're going even further, faster. Now, what will happen is people will start getting out of it and getting their act together, but by the time they work it out, you'll already be far in the distance. And most people don't seem to understand that. That's key. So as you can see in this video, this is what you got to do.
But it's really true. I mean, right now, this is how you are. I mean, if you are inside of that bowl, that means that you have already asked somebody how things are going to be happening. And before you know it, you're going to be just crashing the competition because they're moving very, very slow. You are getting that specific motion, which is great. I mean, I just love it. Look at this. Let's just watch a little bit on I mean, I would love to be doing that for real on real life. Look at that. 1, 2.
Yeah. Do you remember when we saw the video of somebody who went shopping and they had a bubble around them to stop them catching coronavirus? And it was about the same kind of size as that. I don't know how they got, but they had somebody picking stuff off the shelves for them and they were walking around in this great big bubble. So yeah, there you go. But that's a kind of momentum when you start moving forward, because the thing is, with a show that we've created, when it first started, it didn't have the kind of scheduling, the kind of ideas, and the kind of reach that we've got now. But literally just keep a momentum going and keep moving was what made all the difference. And so anybody who's starting to think, well, have I left it too late? You haven't left it too late, but you really have to start working on things now and speeding up the process as much as you possibly can.
So let's go to the second law of momentum. And for this, we're going to go all the way to the International Space Station. Have a look.
Hello, everyone. I'm astronaut Randy Bresnik, living and working aboard the International Space Station. Now, on the space station, we live in a microgravity environment. Do you think the laws of physics will hold up? Come on, let's go find out.
The acceleration of an object depends on the net force acting on the object and the mass of the object, or F equals ma.
Jolly good show, Sir Isaac.
Here we see that once the force of the thrust is greater than the weight of the vehicle, the rocket begins to accelerate.
We're going to start with something small, something you might have at home. A little stick of chapstick. We'll go ahead and use our force being our bungee cord here. We'll put it on our bungee, and we'll pull it back. And you can see how fast it accelerates because there's very little mass. Next, we'll try a little spaceship. A little more massive, And you can feel that because as you move it, you can feel that the kind of the force, the extra force you have to push with your hand. So we'll put our spaceship on our launcher here, same spot. Notice it's flying a lot slower than that chapstick did. What we've seen is the same amount of force on a smaller, less massive object means the acceleration is faster. Well, this is the biggest and most massive thing we have. So let's see how the acceleration is affected. Pull back the same amount on the force, and here we go. And there you have it, Newton's second law of motion in action.
Can you imagine being the poor cameraman who drew the short straw of having to hold the camera while this guy's firing stuff at him? So he's got a chapstick embedded in his forehead, and he's got some little shuttle stuck in his arm, and now he's got this massive bed thing just coming towards him. There's no way he's going to get out of the way. But it just goes to show exactly what it's like when you're in space, and I'm not sure what else we're talking about. It's just a cool video.
Yeah, no, it is just super nice to see the size. That's the important part. And what's the lesson that we can get from this? You have to start small. You don't have to start big or create whole things. So one elephant is just eating one bite at a time. What does that mean? For example, in our case, we started doing this show, and throughout this show, we started doing a lot content on a daily basis. Right now, we have over 500 videos in YouTube. And this didn't really happen in one day. If we would have thought, well, we have to have 500 videos in YouTube, it would have been very difficult. But because, of course, we started doing little by little, we started really getting a lot of traction. Now, how do we get these 500 videos? Every single episode that we do from the Toilet Paper Diaries, what we do is we cut it into pieces, and then we start giving different keywords, and we will show you that specific strategy on Fast Forward on Thursday, how you can get it done. 1 hour or 2 hours of content creation is going to give you tremendous power when you are when we are out and when we are outside of these crazy times. Because right now, if you don't have that content, if you don't have that credibility, it's going to be very difficult for you to get that kind of respect that you possibly would like in the virtual world.
Absolutely. And one of the things about it is we give you strategies on Fast Forward. And if you're not sure how to find Fast Forward, it's a specific closed group, but you're very welcome to come and join us on a Thursday evening. But go to Fast Forward, go to facebook.com /groups, then /Fast Forward show, and just apply to join, and we'll let you in to join us. And what we do on a Thursday is we deep dive into every subject that we've covered during that week, and we give you practical steps about how you can actually do it for yourself. So the theory kind of comes now, but the actual practice and more about the subjects happens on Fast Forward. So we'd love to have you join us for that one particular show. And if you're enjoying this, leave your comments, say hi, let us know you're having a good time, subscribe, and start a watch party amongst all your friends so they can find out how to do all this stuff as well. It's a real pleasure to have you with us. So we've gone through 2 laws of momentum, Ernesto Verdugo. What's next?
What's next? Quick recap. First is we have to ask who, not how. And then the moment that we start moving and going down and really getting motion, then we have to start with little steps. So now let's go to the third one, which is basically setting a plan.
Today we're going to demonstrate Newton's third law of motion, which says every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's the principle that sends rockets to the moon. If you want to try this at home, this is what you need. When I release my fingers, air pushes out of the balloon. That's our action. Our reaction is that the balloon moves with the same force in the opposite direction. If you want to learn more about Newton's third law of motion or ask me a question, check out scientistseason.com.
Every action, there's an equal reaction. The moment that you start moving forward, you need to start moving forward. But what I really like is that example of the balloon. I mean, I think it'll be very nice to put some fishing line and a little straw and then the balloon moving so that you can see it moving. Now, I am a pilot, and one of the things that really has helped me in my life is understanding how important it is to plan your route. Our goal is to know that, I mean, we wanted to get tremendous exposure virtually that we didn't have in the past. I mean, we were doing a lot of posts in Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, in everywhere, and we were getting some traction. Right now, if you search Dave's name or if you search my name on online, you're going to see that we have a lot of pictures and whatever. But one of the things that I got to understand while we were here in lockdown was the power of YouTube. Why YouTube was so incredibly powerful. Because you create one video and that video stays there for 10, 15 years, while if you put a post, might stay for 24 or 48 hours. So you start really compounding. Now, to understand the power of compounding, and I think this is just an interesting video, I'm going to play it without any sound. You can, on square one, we see 1 grain of rice, then 2, then 4, then 8, then 16, and keeps on compounding. And it gets to the point that it is all the way to space because of the power of compounding. And this is exactly how you need to see your strategy on creating YouTube videos. That's the whole point of this. That if you start having your plan, and what is my plan? What is the plan that I want to get? I want to make sure that people find me, not right now, but afterwards. And that's why we're creating so many videos in YouTube. We want to create traction with YouTube. This is the reason why we are considering in the world right now, in the virtual world, video, and we have seen it. I mean, whether it is Zoom, whether it is webinars, whether it is whatever, video is that thing which is going to really have you everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And that's what we are thinking of having your plan. So what is our plan? First of all, we wanted to have a show. We started little by little. We started with a 20-minute show. We started growing it, and we know exactly in which direction we're going, and we're moving forward. So our third law of momentum for Dave and myself is basically having a route.
As we're saying, it's all about building that momentum. Now, here's the key to where it makes a big difference. If you think about where your business is right now, as we said at the very beginning of the show, if you've been stuck in lockdown like most people around the world, and you're thinking, right, everything's just stopped. There's a reset button on business, there's a reset button that's been pressed, and we're not moving at all. Think about how these laws will apply to you. You've got the chance to then use the second law. The first law is inertia, nothing's moving. Second law is you can start learning skills, taking baby steps to move forward. Now, the key to how this works is it's like running a marathon. You don't have to run 26 kilometers or 26 miles straight away. You put one foot in front of the other and repeat, and then you get to the end. And then the third element is as you start to see things moving and coming out of lockdown, which hopefully is happening in your part of the world, you want to fast track to make sure you get there faster than everybody else, with a roadmap, with an idea, because right now there's digitization that's happening across the board. It should be happening in many businesses, but most businesses don't realize this is what they need to be doing. I'm hosting an event this weekend, and it's all about data-driven businesses. And it's all about the fact they're going to use 5G and edge computing. So instead of sending stuff up to the cloud, you'll have devices like your phone or whatever it is that you're using, which will do all the calculations around you right now. And so there's going to be a very digitized way of doing every part of business. If you're not up to speed with that, then you're going to have a challenge. And as a speaker, there's so many different ways that you can move forward, not just doing live gigs in front of an audience. That time is gone for some time. I don't think you're going to see that for the next 6 to 12 months safely, unless you have an auditorium where it looks like when you're playing musical chairs and you've got to stand some distance, musical statues from each other. But what you can do is start appreciating those skills you have can be used in a different way. Now, how does this work in terms of momentum? Well, think about how your business is going to come together. Here we've got a video coming up, Steve Jobs at Stanford. We're going to show you a little clip of it, so you understand exactly how powerful he is. It was a great speaker. And what he used to do is talk about things in terms of threes. So when he launched any of the iPhone or iPad. It was always in 3 stages, and that's how he shared it with the audience. Now, he's got a very strong story here. I'm going to let you see about 2 minutes of it, and I'm going to show you exactly what the full story is. And I would urge you to watch this actual address as a speaker, because it's brilliant anyway. So roll VT.
I'm honored to be with you today for your commencement from one of the finest universities in the world. Truth be told, I never graduated from college, and this is the closest I've ever gotten to a college graduation. Today, I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. That's it. No big deal. Just 3 stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them. If I had never dropped out, I would have never dropped in on that calligraphy class, and personal computers might not have the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something. Your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart even when it leads you off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference. My second story is about love and loss. As Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me, and for the first year or so things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I even thought about running away from the Valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next, and I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Lorene and I have a wonderful family together. My third story is about death. When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right. It made an impression on me, and since then, for the past 33 years, I've looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart.
And if you think about that level of coincidence, from being born to being sent to a university, to dropping out, attending a calligraphy class, and now the reason you've got so many wonderful fonts on your computer is because of the journey that Steve Jobs took to eventually come to that great crescendo. How's that going to affect in your life? What's your story of threading it all together? Because you can't read life forwards. You can only read it through history and look backwards, and then it all makes sense. And that's momentum.
That's great, Dave. We have one last video, just to put everything into perspective. I mean, talking a little bit about what we have done and what we are also doing. So possibly you can just explain a little bit to it.
Whatever you're thinking about, if you're a speaker, the world has changed dramatically from when you went into lockdown. And I don't think it's going to go back to exactly what it was anyway. But if you're also an entrepreneur and you're wondering how to market your business, or if you're in the events industry and you're wondering, how can I start getting events moving again? I need audiences, I need catering, I need to have logistics, I need to have all these different elements. It doesn't mean the world has stopped turning. It just means that you've got to take a different approach to how you do it. And that's what this show is dedicated to doing. So as always, start a watch party, like, comment, share, subscribe, and it'll all make sense after you've watched this video.
My name is Dave Crane. For many years, the biggest fear of most people was to stand up in front of a live audience, speak, communicate, and motivate, and get people to like your brand, your services, and your products. Most people got it wrong, but those who did get it right were seen as leaders. And then the lockdown happened, and now everyone's communicating through different platforms and webinars. And the problem is, if they didn't learn to communicate effectively before, they're even worse now. And they lose audiences who just switch off. And then we went digital, and the possibilities are endless. As a speaker, you can reach any amount of thousands of people, and you can share your message, you can motivate them, and you can change lives. As an event organizer, the possibilities are endless as to how big you can make an event. You don't have to worry about logistics, you don't have to worry about language. You can create something that people can watch in their own time and attend in real time at the same time. As a corporate decision maker and as the owner of a business, you can create your message, you can create a niche, you can get the people from your industry to work with you and make your tribe defined very simply just by putting it online. And what kind of events can you create? You can have a web TV show that dominates your industry and sends your message and your brand across the globe. You can invite in the very best of the industry as your special guests every single day. You can sell through Zoom calls and look after your team the same way. You can also have webinars that unite everybody and tell them about your latest product launches. You can also step into a digital world. Imagine that you could be a digital version of yourself, speaking at a virtual conference. Virtual conferences will change the game. Not only can you speak in a big auditorium where people from their laptops are all present in front of you, but you can also have spin-off rooms, meeting rooms. You can display the latest products. I can also have boardroom meetings at the same event. You could do them in real time, but also leave all the content available for people to comment on or review at a later date. And the cost is a fraction. You can go global from your laptop. These are the possibilities that are for you, whether you're a speaker, an event organizer, a small business, or a big decision maker. You need to think about the new version of you and how that will impact your brand and take your opportunities to a brand new level. The possibilities are endless now that we're completely digital. You can be online and offline, on stage and off stage, and your speaking ability will drive your message, drive your brand, and change the world. It's time for you to now learn to speak on stage.
Good looking guy. So this is the business that Ernesto and I are actually in. This is what we do. We help entrepreneurs, speakers to find their voice and also to translate what they used to do into the brand new world. And so if you'd like to work with us directly, then just contact us directly. We've got different things that we do. My area is probably about the actual ability of stagecraft. And Ernesto is really about creating that roadmap and using the social media, the tools and techniques to be able to grow your brand very quickly. But we collaborate and work with everybody. So if you're interested in that, contact us directly. Are you going to show the buttons or contact us for the show? There we go. For me, it's thedavecrane.com. And if you want to talk to Ernesto directly, then go to this site here, Ernesto.today. But Ernesto and I share everything. So we'll be able to work with you and work out which is the best way for you to find a roadmap to be able to move forward. We're going to be covering a lot of this stuff as well. So, oh, sorry. Yeah.
That's a dangerous statement to make.
Yeah, that's stuff that we're still being investigated for, that you got arrested for. We'll leave. But the key thing is, we can't talk about that for obvious reasons. On Wednesday, we're going to be talking more in depth about the speaker side. Now you've got your head around about momentum, but wondering how does that apply to me? We're going to give you an opportunity to lift the lid off the speaker world and see how you can be part of that in particular. And as I mentioned, on Thursday, we have that special group in Fast Forward, or the Fast Forward show, and we'd love you to join us in there, where we do a big, deep dive into what really goes into every element of producing a show like this and getting your business to grow as a direct result of it. There you go. Go to www.facebook.com/ or is it / I can never work out, groups / or / Fast Forward show. And we'd love to be able to share quality time with you on Thursday as well.
Yeah, we're going to be sharing with you some great strategies on how to create content and how to get positioned as a speaker, as an entrepreneur. And right now, the most important thing is we have changed the rules of the game. Not we, but the circumstances have changed the rules of the game. We need to play it differently. We should not be asking how, we should ask who. We should make sure that we start little by little and that we have a perfect plan on how to accomplish that. Dave, we are running out of time, but we have, before we go, we have to say to everybody in France, all our friends in France, well, bon fête, and enjoy a fantastic 14 juillet. So with that, we let you go, guys, and we'll see you.
That's Bastille Day for everybody else.
Yeah, that is correct. But you know what? In France, you cannot say that, so that's why I'm saying it. But yeah, the rest of the world, it is Bastille Day. So anyway, see you guys on Wednesday. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
À nos enfants de la patrie, le jour de gloire est arrivé.
Thanks for watching the show. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you watch all the videos over here. There's 2 choices for you, and I think we should send a message. Hold on.
What is this?
Subscribe.